ultimate, supreme God. Fine. And there are spirits. Now, if you search and go further in the written text, you also realize that God can be related to the spirit. God is actually spirit, but deep down, He is the ultimate, father of all spirit, and including the living beings, us as well. So therefore, you sort of begin to have your mindsets set in between whether what is truly God and what is truly spirit. Others have defined spirits that are with God as angels. The books also reveal clearly that God is not one spirit, it's many spirits. In fact, in the old teachings of the Bible, the Quran, is clearly stated. You can see that it is God, the speech of God comes as we, not never I, just we. Except in the Bible where in sometimes of the Moses stories, it revealed, I am who I am. They're sort of slightly, in a very a cheeky answer that he had to give straight to Moses and said, I am whom I am. And that was seen as even his name, or that is how he referred to himself. Moses was so desperate to know the name of the God that was talking to him. Moses was the type of prophet who was desperate to understand, because he had an Egyptian upbringing, even though it was still Jewish, but it was more controlled by the Egyptians. More controlled by the Egyptians, sorry. So in every way, he was into the Egyptian what we call idolic worship. But to me now, I don't see these things as idolic worship, because it is all the sense of seeking. They are seeking for answers. They want to know who God is. And they choose anything that they built on that they can be able to be satisfied, or they sort of see signs or things happening in their life, and they appreciate that. It's the same way everybody that chooses to go along the same route in order to establish his idea of God. So the Jews had that idea of God, and they sort of experienced something more real. They have evidence to that in their own world, in their own understanding, in their own conscience. So Moses has come from there. Moses have experienced it now. This spirit is now speaking to God and speaking to Moses, and saying to Moses, hey, I am the God of the Jews. I am the God of that. I am whom I am. So he has a singular approach at that instance. Now, I don't know about the rest of the angels compared to the rest of the spirits compared to what Moses experienced. Whether in that instance it was just a singular God talking, because there in the Bible also it tells you that the God who was speaking was acting like a leader, and in Genesis he says, let us do that. Let us create man in our own image. That means it started with one person doing the whole job, and then it ended up him including others as being part of the work that he was doing, that is creation. In terms of when he was about to create men, he created me and everybody, the human beings. He then acknowledged to the fact that there is the presence of other spirits there with him that carried out the work of whatever it is. That is before after the sun and all things were done, because they placed the light there, the moon there, and everything was there. And then after that, when human being was about to be created, he says, let us create man in our own image. In some instances, also in the same book of Genesis, it goes further, and the same voice had to speak, another voice speaking out again, a singular approach, speaking out and saying to them, look at man, look at what men are doing. They are building all these images to worship, to sort of represent something different from what we are. Let's go and cause confusion among them. So then he called them, and then he went and brought confusion among men, which caused us to have different languages and all that. Now, in that same instances, it is also referred in the same book, the same instances, the same issues of spirits being seen as what? The sons of God. That means God created them in so many ways, with a different format. It says the sons of what? God. Has envied men and has come upon men and has made men to sort of slept with the men, the women, the children, the women or the females of the children of men. So like women were experiencing spiritual, engagement in the sense of having sexual intercourse with spirits, and they end up having children, and the children were seen as renowned men, and that was another area which also make you begin to think that who then are the spirits, or who was the spirit that he shared that creation with, so that we can differentiate what spirits are and what angels are. Maybe there's much more to it than this, but they are not very clear. Now, if you have such a test and such a belief in your belief state is on these levels, you are not very much solid. You've not got the full information that tells you exactly the truth or makes you rely on it as being the truth, because it is like it looks very vague in its presentation. It looks very vague, so much that you cannot tell right from wrong. You cannot tell God from spirit. You cannot tell what really God really is, whether it's a singular a divine entity, or it is a divided entity. Now, in so many ways, I would have met somebody and he says, "Oh, the book is harmonious." A Jehovah Witness lady I had to speak to recently was telling me the book is very harmonious, and they all work together and they all make sense. I didn't know what she was trying to say, but as I have said to you, if you read the book of Genesis and you are analyzing to place yourself in a situation of knowing who Jehovah is, the God that the Jews had to worship, you will realize that they are not very harmonious at all. You don't get the flow of getting the true picture of who he is. In fact, even in his own words, he does not want anybody to know who he is. He clearly said, "I am whom I am. I am the God of Abraham." He does not give a clear explanation of his true identity, and that is very much something worrying. Now, you live your life not knowing your Father. That is very worrying. You live your life not knowing your Creator. Your Creator. That is very worrying. Now, you and I might disagree or agree. It's entirely up to you how you choose to live your life to feel. If you want to feel terrible and your certain situation doesn't make you feel terrible, that's fine. I mean, you are living life and you're going to die anyway, whether you like it or not. Aren't you wondering a little bit to find out why you die? Aren't you wondering to find out why you get old and sick? Why you were created in the first place? What is the point being created if you're going to die? These questions are very serious that you ask. You ask. So what is so a big a deal that I should die? I should have lived for longer. Why do I die so at 80? So all these questions it props up into your mind. But there are people who don't think about this. They have accepted life. They're ready to die. They go for it. And it's easily taught than in sense of when it comes to it. Because you might say all that. You might ignore all these things. You might say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't want to know." And then you get old. Because definitely you're going to get old. And then now it comes to it that you are about to die. That is a moment where now the experience of it has come to reality. I can't imagine for you spending all your time and waiting for that moment before you start thinking about it. And even at that state, your mind is not even ready to think about it, but the fear that you can't escape. You live life and you cannot escape fear. Fear is something which is there. No matter what you do, it comes up. But why should there be fear in the first place? If you live here, that's why people have to spend money to protect themselves, leaders, everybody. Fear is something that is like part of our life. It shouldn't be necessarily. Why should we live in the world and be afraid? I mean, that's the first thing you should ask yourself. Is it necessary in our life to live in fear? No, we don't need that. I don't think you do need that. So those things that are there, that exist in our life, we have questions that somehow we have to ask to take it out of the way, because I don't think that it should be that I spend my life and having fear of my fellow man or something terrible happening to me. That shouldn't be the case at all, in my view. Anyway, it's down up to you also to rethink these things through and find out what is the best